I'd like to take you back to December 18th, 2021, a Saturday afternoon, because that day the Dutch government announced that the Netherlands would go back into lockdown. Restaurants, clubs, theaters, bars, they all closed for at least 4 weeks in order to stop the spread of the coronavirus. And you may remember that day or that afternoon or that period of time. It was a bit weird, right? Because we experienced a lockdown before. We knew what was waiting for us. And that's why that afternoon, me and my friends, we went to our favorite brunch place to enjoy the hospitality industry one last time. And to be frank, to be honest, I didn't only pay attention to my friend or to my favorite sandwich, but also to my phone. And if I'm completely honest, I was only occupied with my cell phone, with my smartphone. Because that afternoon, I downloaded a new game, and that game turned out to be super addictive. The longer I played, the more coins I earned, and I needed those coins in order to win the game. Every time I think back at that lockdown, on that afternoon, or when I walk by our favorite brunch place, I regret what I did that afternoon, and I feel somewhat like an idiot. I would like to ask you guys, could you please raise your hand if you ever, only just once, worried about the amount of screen time that you have? Okay, that's about 60–70% of you. All right.
And may I see a show of hands if you've been annoyed in the last weeks by a digital interaction? Could be a very long voice memo that you received, or LinkedIn post that maybe should have been put in someone's diary, or a different social media platform, or perhaps a conspiracy theory that you read on Twitter. Anyone?
Show of hands.
Right, okay, that's a good amount. And I guess that we all feel that technology is changing how we interact with ourselves and with the other. And the question is, are we still happy with that balance? Or do we feel it's time for a bit of a reset? Are we still able to control technology? Or is technology controlling our behavior in some sense of way? How do we avoid frustration, irritation, and misunderstanding? How can we navigate our digital well-being and being avoidant in a digital translation kind of matter? Because we think it's time for a new framework and basically lay out the unwritten rules. So that's why we present the digital etiquette.
Yeah, but before we do that, it might be nice to, introduce ourselves. So my name is Mirck. I'm a thinker, writer, and speaker on the influence of technology on our day-to-day lives. And where some worry about sustainability and others about diversity, I'm really occupied with how technology changes our lives. I've wrote a collection of poetry on technology called This Algorithm Ain't Right, Dit algoritme deugt niet. Ook al deugen de meeste algoritmes. And I write opinion pieces in newspapers like De Telegraaf, Parool, Elsevier, HP De Tijd, and NRC.
My name is Sanne, and I'm the founder and CEO of Able Entertainment, which is a company that produces audio stories for kids, audio books, podcasts, but also interactive audio plays. And we believe in a future where kids have a healthy media consumption and alternatives for screen time. Before that, I worked at strategic positions at Spotify, Google, and Booking. I published for 2 years in Financieel Dagblad as a columnist, and I wrote a fiction book about the tech startup scene and digital dilemmas, a book that's more concerned around the ethical sides of tech. So as you can hear, technology is close to my heart. That's where I'm super excited also to be here today in the midst of technology. We're going to share why digital etiquette is important, also to apply it and how you can benefit from it. And we're going to do that in a quiz. So in a few minutes' time, there's going to be an interactive part.
Yeah, but first thing first, why do we need digital etiquette? Well, as long as there have been humans, we have agreed on some rules. Some rules are written, others are unwritten. So, for example, if you participate in traffic, you travel by car or by bike, you know that the traffic that comes from right has the right of way. Rules ensure safety. And when you're having dinner with your in-laws, you know that you use fork and knife on the outside first. Rules ensure we don't make a fool of ourselves, we don't embarrass others. They guarantee something like social safety. You could say that etiquette, good manners, are like traffic rules for social traffic, for social interaction. And this social traffic is more and more online. We speak each other on dating apps, group chats, video meetings. And since the pandemic, since the lockdowns, this has only increased. Nowadays, on average, we spend 21 years of our entire life on the internet.
21 years. Let that sink in for a moment. And that's why we published this book in November 2022. We did a lot of research and spoke to a lot of interviews in the field, a lot of desktop research. Unfortunately, this was the time before ChatGPT. We could have saved a lot of time. But here today, we're giving you a bit of a shortcut. So if there are 3 takeaways and shortcuts for today, and you have to navigate a difficult digital situation, then ask yourself, do I give enough consideration to others? Would I behave the same way offline? And do I actually need technology, or can I navigate this situation without any tech? So imagine the first point. Imagine if about your implications, and am I taking enough other people into account? You visit your birthday or your cousin's birthday. She is under 18. You have a great time, so you're so excited to share that joy, and you're going to share it on Snapchat, Be Real, TikTok, Instagram, and you tag everyone, but you don't realize the consequences of that behavior in the future. You guys seem all very tech savvy, so you understand the consequences and that it might an innocent picture show up on the dark web or deepfake technology, but the majority of us is still quite unaware of those kind of implications and situations. But even like more close to home, a future employer might do a search, or a future husband or wife might do a search and still make some assumptions based on that single picture. So our message is like take other people's into account, and you never know the future consequences of one single tag or data point.
Yeah, so the second question is, will I do the same offline? We all have certain values for everyday life, and the trick is not to only apply them offline, but also online. For instance, you think that when you meet someone, it's okay to be nice to that person. Not the weirdest value, right? So where do people meet nowadays? Where do we get to know new people? Online, on a dating app. So how does that work? Well, you're swiping through profiles for a couple of days. You find a match, someone that you like that also fancies you, and you're chatting on the app. You're having a blast. You find a real connection with this person, and you're looking forward to meeting this person. You're looking forward to the first date. And then, all of a sudden, you hear nothing. Complete radio silence, and it leaves you surprised and, of course, disappointed. You wonder, did I do something wrong? Has it to do with my pictures? Should I do something differently next time? This happens so much on dating apps. There's actually a name for this kind of behavior. Ghosting. Turning into a ghost. Disappearing without letting someone know why you've left the conversation. And it's actually quite weird behavior, because if we were having a chat at the bar later on today, and I would walk away in the middle of our conversation, that would be quite strange, right? So always ask yourself, would I also do this offline? Would I also say to a person if I was seeing someone face to face?
And the third question you can ask yourself is, could and would I do this with technology? And technology and an app seems like a straightforward solution to fix all your problems, whether it's like a date or finding groceries, or ordering flowers. You don't need to leave the house to get something done. But you can also consider it from a different point, that you're not open for surprises or spontaneity anymore. The friction that may cause when you get called on in a rain to the supermarket also makes you perhaps leads to other surprises other than that. If you're remodeling your house and you need a drill, of course there's an app for that too, or a platform. But what if you knock on the door of your neighbor and you ask him for that or her for that drill? You end up in a nice conversation, a coffee, some help, and perhaps you don't need any dating apps in the future. So that is the last, actually, the consequences, or the question you can ask yourself. And although spontaneity and an encounter with a stranger might make your life a bit more worthwhile.
Yeah. So the main takeaway is it's not black or white. There's some nuance to this story. Technology is not good or bad. You're not better off if you throw your phone out of the window. I won't argue that. I think it has to do with balance. We've came up with some pretty brilliant technology. Let's be less stupid when we are around it. Just like you don't get happy from eating a whole bag of chips in one go, it's a matter of balance. Because those who stare less at their screen make more eye contact with others. And if we turn off the Wi-Fi, just sometimes, it might create space for some real connections. Thank you.
And now it's time for the quiz.
The interactive part. So AMS-IX has asked us to, well, test your knowledge of digital etiquette, and you may have found the green and red papers, leaflets, under or near your chair. Well, you are going to use them to vote. I would like to ask you all to stand up, because if you have the correct answer, you can stand up, keep standing. But if you got the answer wrong, well, I'd like to ask you to sit down, and the last person standing wins the quiz, meaning a signed copy of the book, eternal fame, of course, and the right to brag about your knowledge of digital etiquette on the workplace. So, good luck. First things first, a question to get into the flow, I would say. My friends are constantly texting during meals. Is that okay? Then you put up the green card, not the FISA for the US, or you put up the red card, and you gotta be kidding me, right? You got up the green card. Oh, you. Thanks so much for demonstrating how the quiz works, because of course it's the red card, and only if you got the red card up, you're still up in the game. So next question.
Good score. LinkedIn has become a Facebook 2.0. Are boomers more comfortable with sharing personal stories on LinkedIn than millennials and Gen Z? Is it true or false?
Boomers meaning baby boomers, yeah.
This is actually false. So the red answer is correct. And the reason why is that Gen Z are really comfortable in sharing the personal stories, and that's after COVID, where the boundaries are a bit more blurry.
LinkedIn conducted a research under their users. Okay, well, don't share that on LinkedIn. And they found out that especially young people, Zoomers and Gen Z, millennials, tend to share personal stories. So this is more like an etiquette, good manners question. My boss keeps texting me on Sundays. Can I address this to him? Yes, or her. Yes or no? Is it okay to complain about being texted on Sunday? I see a lot of green cards in the audience, and I am here to congratulate you guys. Well done. Yes, you can. You have the right to, well, take a day off from work, not be reachable for your boss or colleagues.
Yes. This one is about monitoring and micromanagement. Since the pandemic, the search query how to monitor employees working from home has increased with more than 1,500%. Is that true, green card, or a red card? False.
Okay.
And this is true. It's massively increased over the last years. It's kind of worrying, but there are a lot of technology invented that can micromanage every single mouse click, and yeah, basically the digital version of an ankle band.
Surveillance at the workplace. Actually, 1,700% increase in the search query. Yeah. So employees who can work remotely or from home are 40% happier than those who can't. Is this true or is this false? I see a lot of green cards, a couple of red cards, and we're down to, I guess, 4 participants because it's false. We are 20% happier if we are able to work from wherever we want. So,
another work-related question. A smartphone distracts us from our work, even if it's turned off. So imagine you have it in your pocket or on your desk. It's not buzzing, but it's still there. Does it lowers our performance with more than 15% on average? True or false? I see. True, true, true.
True.
And false?
Yeah. Are you still in the race? Okay. All right. All right. That's okay. That's okay.
The answer whisperer. It's actually true.
It's true. It's 20% actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next.
Yeah. No, it might be a nice way to increase your effectiveness and put that phone away.
Yeah. Could you be fired if you are sending work-related emails via your private email address? Put up the green card in some cases, put up the red card if you think never. Right, green cards are winning, red cards, please sit down. It has to do with the code of conduct of your company. If your employer tells you not to send work email via your private email address, you could actually be fired. And this has become somewhat of a trend. We all remember Hugo de Jonge. This has been actually also employers and employees have been struggling with this issue more and more the last years.
And what if you're sending text from your Nokia? Next quiz. So is it okay to Google your date or your in-laws or your appointments before you meet them? What is the etiquette about it? Yes or no? Is it? Do you agree? Yeah, I see yes, I see yes. Sergio, are you still in? We give you some time. It depends, yeah?
It depends, okay. Okay. I guess we do have a winner because there's 1 green card, 1 red card. You're not in the race, right? You're just walking in, okay? And I'm going to congratulate you because it is okay to Google your appointments. Well, the authors of this book. and let me tell you why. Because, and I think this is a really good question because we all struggle with how to navigate in a digital age. So we came up with some rules. They're not set in stone, but let's just make it a conversation starter. But when we are meeting someone new, of course you don't want to engage with a catfish, someone that claims to be something what he or she really isn't. So yes, do Google, you're completely right, but do it in moderation.
Don't make it a fishing expedition.
So a big hand for our winner.
Yeah.
Come on up. We'd like to give you your prize for today, a signed copy.
What is your name?
Thomas Verschuren.
Nou, Thomas, gefeliciteerd.
And eternal fame.
Of course.
Congratulations, well done.
All right.
Yeah, this was it. Like, if you want to hear more about digital etiquette, please feel free to reach out to us or get the book. It's still in the bookshops or online. And thank you so much for your presence and attention and your time. That's the most valuable currency of today. So thank you. We're super grateful.
Thank you so much.
I'll give you, perhaps we have some questions in the audience from anyone. who wants to find out a little bit more about etiquette. I did have, I don't know if the questions or not, but I know in Asia a little while ago they used to have these walking lanes on the footpath where you weren't allowed to use your mobile while you were walking. So there were these fast lane sort of things because people were bumping into each other.
Is it in Japan at the Shibuya crossing?
It sounds, yeah, I don't know if it's there, but it sounds like that. But the other interesting thing, and I'm wondering, is it technology that does this to us, or is it just the need for distraction? I remember once seeing this photo, which I thought was quite good because, you know, I get on trains now, I go to Schiphol, and it's amazing. You get on that train and just everyone's just got their head in the phone, you know, and it's brilliant just to look around and do that, or walk into an elevator and everyone's got their head in, and then you don't do it, and all of a sudden people start putting it away, you know. But I saw this photo somewhere where they had a photo in the 70s of everyone sitting in the train, a photo today, everyone had their mobiles, but in the 70s, everyone had a newspaper in their face. So I'm wondering, you know, is it really technology, or is it something, you know, that's in us that doesn't want that interaction, wants that private time, is looking for a distraction, boredom, or something like that. So I don't know if you've looked into, you know, previous forms of technology, so to speak.
Yeah, I guess like a minority is still reading the newspapers, right? Like when they're traveling and commuting. So that's definitely one source of information that they want to have. But it's more to do with the dopamine that we're constantly trying to get. Yeah. And that gives us such a nice little pleasure in our brains that we're wired and trying to kind of like fight all the apps and the social media addictions and the built-in gambling algorithms that we in a naturally way get drawn to that every single time. So it is a kind of like a way to distract your mind, but.
Well, I mean, it's funny because I've got a couple of kids, teenagers, and I'm from Australia, and I'm taking them to Australia in the summer. And we're going to go into the desert for 5 days. So I'm already like preparing them. I'm like, there's going to be 5 days where you're going to have no internet.
Will there be Wi-Fi?
Like, no, what do you mean no internet? I said, like, really no internet? They said, of course we will. I said, no, really, nothing for 5 days. So I think I'm joking. So I can't wait to get it out of that. I don't know who's going to survive this, but...
Do you still call this a holiday or a punishment?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know.
What did they do wrong?
I'll do a presentation in Next More IP about how it went. Yeah? So, anyway.
This has actually been a trend somewhat in lifestyle media. So there are places just like where you are going on holiday with no internet, and they're called white spots. And when you check out Google Trends data, you see a peak every year in summer, but the peak is getting higher on white spots. So more and more people are actually...
Deliberately.
Not your children, maybe, but more and more people are really keen on finding white spots.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant. Yeah. Good stuff. Can I just give you a microphone? Is it about my holiday? Can we put that microphone on?
Yeah, hello. Okay, so in the 2000s was also common to develop some kind of the so-called netiquette rules, right? Is this a sort of evolution of the netiquette rules? Are you still mentioning those netiquette rules that we had in the past also?
Yeah, so this is a modern take on like the situations that are most pressing. So we took 30 the most like pressing issues and did some user research on those. What is everyone's struggle and the most annoyances, but also what makes you insecure? Like, sometimes you just don't know what to do, or whether it's dialing into a groups call with work. Are you still going to say hi and hello, and what is your way of interaction? But it's also a lot to do with data and privacy. Like how are you going to spy on a nanny, or what are the boundaries against that? So we felt there was a modern take needed on the netiquette, and really based on the situations that we're facing today.
Maybe another quiz question. Are you allowed to ring someone in your own house to tell them dinner's ready?
Maybe get an offline bell.
This is definitely a question for the sequel.
Yeah.
Most have. Well, I think it's okay, but don't do it,
Well,
it during dinner.
according to
not
my
during-
partner, it's fine. You know, she's ringing the kid 2 stories up. And, but I think it's weird. But
I think
anyway.
I don't know about how your partner screams, but the neighbors might be
okay,
actually pretty happy with this
yeah,
solution.
good point. Good point.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we got another one. All right.
All right.
You guys are winning for the most questions asked.
All right.
I think because their topic, we struggle with them every day. What Serge is doing with his children, you say it's a punishment, but is this a generation difference? We are the same age, I know, Serge and I have the same. I'm also asking my children sometimes, this week, no media, no social media, no devices. Because sometimes I say, no mobiles, then they take the laptop. They say, you didn't say laptop, you say no mobile. So is this a generation thing? We consider holiday without devices?
Yeah, so I just read the book Thank You for Watching. And it's a book about a professor that asked his students to turn off the TV for a whole week. That was, well, somewhat like the smartphone back in the 90s, I guess. And those students report the same kind of drama that kids nowadays report when turning off their smartphone. So I don't think it has to do with generation. Of course, young kids spend much more time on digital media than I used to watch TV back in the 90s when I was growing up. But I think there is some constants in how we interact with new technology and how we fear the loss of contact with younger kids. So there is some constant in this, the adoption of new technology and how we interact with it. But the fear for smartphone and laptop usage kind of reminds me in a way on how we feared TV back in the 90s and how it changes behavior, because if we're all watching TV, we're not engaging with each other, right? So that has to do.
Yeah, it's you know, and it's interesting. Sorry, keep throwing Australia into it, but I used to do something like this before the invention of the phone. I used to go away for a week into the desert on my own. And people used to think, are you bored out there? I used to love it, just to get away from the city. I lived in Melbourne. It's a city now of 5 million people. It's a big city. And then you'd go out in the desert and you'd see another car coming and you'd be on the motorbike, waving and everything. You'd usually stop, talk to them like your best mates, and you'd be doing this all the time. And I'd go away for 3 weeks, come back to Melbourne, get into on a Monday morning, get into a busy elevator in one of the big buildings, 20 people in there, go in and say, hey, to everyone, and they just look at me like I was a nutter. So you're living, you know, in a city of 5 million, no one wants to talk to each other. You go out in the desert where there's no one, all of a sudden you're best mates, you know. And I think this is also, you know, interesting, a similar sort of thing that you'll probably see it more in a densely populated city where, again, I don't know if people are trying to hide, get away or whatever, even though we're all chose to live right next to each other. We don't want to communicate with each other. We'd rather communicate with something we can hide behind.
No, exactly that. And I think that's what we mentioned with being open for spontaneity and being open for that interaction with a stranger or like a funny situation. And you don't want to end up on a holiday like, oh, I finished Stranger Things season 4, but you want to share real memories, right? And real funny encounters. So I was joking, like, is it a punishment? But I do feel there's definitely value in discovering yourself and your social skills when you don't hide in a phone.
Yeah, I hate it because I think quite a few of us in the room are getting to the age where we can say, oh, when I was a kid, you know. But anyway.
Boomer.
Okay, any last questions?
Yes, sir. Were you looking for opal or for gold?
Oh, anything, no. But anything to fill my pockets. All right, thank our speakers again, yeah? Thank you, Sanne. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, sir.
You want this stuff?